You've felt it before. Someone walks into the room, and before they say a single word, something shifts. Not because of what they said, not because of what they did, just a weird feeling in the air, almost as if an invisible force from the people around you is communicating somehow. Some people feel calming, some people feel draining, some feel magnetic. But what if that feeling isn't imaginary? What if your body is responding to something real, long before your conscious mind can even recognize it? With every beat, your heart generates an electromagnetic field, and for over a century, scientists have been trying to measure it. What if it's carrying more than just energy? What if there's an untapped store of information inside of it that our technology just isn't capable of measuring yet, but our bodies can? And if we could detect those signals, what could they mean? Join me as we unravel all this and much more and enter the Codex Legendarium. I'm Shelby Melanson. Not long ago, I came across an interesting tidbit online. Some blog post on social media talking about the feeling of walking into the room and thinking something is just off. Or when you get introduced to someone and you either instantly click or instantly repel, like magnets. Or like how 5 or so years ago, everyone started talking about the vibes being off. Yeah, I know. That slang actually goes way back to the 1940s, but that is another matter. The post also started talking about something else, the heart, and that got me thinking. The heart is thought of like a pump, a biological engine pushing blood through the body. But with every beat comes an electrical pulse, and every pulse creates a magnetic field. And unlike blood, those signals don't just stop at your skin. So what exactly might be contained within that electrical energy? Are the heart's signals just quiet and weak? Or have we been listening the wrong way this whole time? Is there a secret store of data flowing through us that we just don't know about? And if so, could we measure it somehow? Not long after I went down that rabbit hole, some wild headlines started showing up in the news about a crazy piece of CIA tech capable of tracking down exactly that. Even if the heart's magnetic field is hidden in the middle of nowhere, miles away, out of sight, inside a mountain crevice. I know. Mind-boggling. And all of that led me to some highly interesting yet debated research from one institute saying the heart's field is much stronger, more capable, and more involved in how we navigate the world than almost anyone gives it credit for. And, oh yeah, an over 20-year-long project that's trying to figure out whether or not the power of emotional and mental energy translates into a physical impact on our world. Yeah, I know! So, a funny thing, while I was writing the script, I accidentally, without realizing it, wrote about twice as much of one of my normal episodes. Whoops. So, this week, we're splitting it up again. And without further ado, welcome to part 1. Okay, so let's start simple here. The heart is a muscle, and when muscles contract, they generate both electrical signals and magnetic signals, just like the brain does. It happens through a process called depolarization, when the electrical charge of a cell's membrane, the skin of the cell, quickly shifts from negative to less negative, aka it takes on a more positive charge. That electric spike is what triggers the muscle to contract. That means every single time your muscles move, they produce electricity, and an electromagnetic field to go with it. And that electromagnetic activity is easily measurable and readable. Just ask anyone who's been hooked up to a heart rate monitor at their doctor's office. Those devices are more formally called electrocardiograms, or EKGs, or ECGs, depending on where you are in the world. The heart is also the body's hardest working muscle. I mean, the thing has enough endurance to pump 2,000 gallons of blood through your body per day and beat roughly 2.5 billion times over the course of your entire life, without stopping. So, as you can imagine, based on that, research shows that the strongest and most consistent electromagnetic field in the body also comes from the heart. Something to note here about when you're talking about electromagnetic fields, there are two distinct things at play: the electric half and the magnetic half. And even though both are deeply interconnected and often described together, they're caused by different things and have distinct traits. so measuring each of them happens a little bit differently. Back in 1901, a Dutch medical doctor invented the first ever practical use EKG machine. His work earned him the nickname the father of electrocardiography, as well as the 1924 Nobel Prize in Physiology in 1924. Basically, his device worked thanks to a very delicate tool called a galvanometer, which could detect and then amplify and record the electrical currents generated by the heart as it contracts. It wasn't until decades later in 1963 that our ability to measure the heart's magnetic half started to catch up. Two researchers named Ball and McFree figured out how to use two big magnetic sensor coils to detect the heart's magnetic field. But the trouble was, the results were far from perfect and were actually pretty noisy. Our current scientific measurements say that the field generated by the heart is quite faint, and also super hard to technologically pick up on. And the thing is, a lot of things generate magnetic fields. For one, all living things do, plus any and all sources of electric current. That includes the big things you think of when you hear the word electricity, like power lines and tech devices. Heck, the Earth itself creates a magnetic field thanks to currents of molten, aka liquid, metal flowing in its outer core. On the other side, magnetic fields also go all the way down to the super small, basically undetectable scale of the atomic level. Down there, electrons orbit the nucleus inside atoms, and even that creates an electric charge. So, suffice to say, in a world filled with electromagnetic noise, isolating the field that comes directly from the heart proved to be difficult, to say the least. A few years later, a biophysicist from Canada named David Cohen figured out a solution. Create a room that's shielded from the world's electromagnetic noise. Grab whatever magnetic field-making thing that you want to measure, stick it inside the room, and boom, measure it. That discovery set the stage for better technology and more accurate, less noisy readings. Inside a lab at MIT, American engineer James Zimmerman unveiled the superconducting quantum interference device, or SQUID. And this thing was leaps and bounds ahead of any magnetic measuring sensors that came before it. Even though the devices still needed magnetically shielded rooms, they opened up entire scientific fields like biomagnetism and recorded the first ever magnocardiogram, or MCG. Basically, the magnetic equivalent of an ECG. Naturally, this technology earned a critical place in both cardiology, the study of the heart, and neuroscience, the study of the brain, and could also sniff out magnetic fields so faint that they border on impossible. For instance, signals that are 1,000th of the background energy in an urban city, or billions of times weaker than Earth's magnetic field. Which is a good thing, by the way, because the magnetic field from the human heart is anywhere from 1 million to 1 billion times weaker than Earth's. Here's the thing. Once technology became sensitive enough, the body stopped looking so silent. From there, the tech got even more advanced and much smaller. By 2004, the tech that had once taken up an entire room and been limited to in-lab use only had suddenly been squeezed into a device so small that it could fit in the palm of your hand. This new technology, roughly the size of a sugar cube, aka a sensor, combines a low-power infrared laser, fiber optics, and a metal called rubidium to pick up on extremely minute changes to a given magnetic field. And it was capturing heartbeat-level magnetic fields by 2010, and the far weaker fields generated by the brain just 2 years later. It was dubbed the NIST Mini Sensor, a nod to the US National Institute of Standards and Technology, and also came to be thanks to backing from the US Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, aka DARPA. Side note, if you find it interesting like I did that this tech suddenly started getting government backing, get ready for a wild ride. Because a couple of days after I first started researching for this episode, a new kind of super secret cutting-edge CIA technology made the news. So, the current understanding is that the magnetic field produced by the heart is relatively weak. But what if it actually wasn't so quiet in reality? What if we could hear it loudly, even as though it were amplified? If only we had the right equipment. And that equipment is called Ghost Murmur. Its job? Just like a metal detector combing the beach for treasure, this thing uses quantum technology to listen for that impossibly faint heartbeat signal, locate it with pinpoint accuracy, and then, according to the president, it can do it from 40 miles away. Now, full disclosure, at the time of writing, all of this information comes from an exclusive published by the New York Post based on info from an anonymous source. So take all of this as you will. Here's the short version of how this came out. As I'm sure you're aware, there is some conflict happening in the Middle East right now. Amidst that conflict, a member of the US military was flying over Iran in an F-15 bomber when that plane was shot down. After getting ejected from the aircraft before the wreck, he managed to survive nearly 2 full days hiding in a mountain crevice, while Iranian troops scoured the area for him in order to cash on a bounty that had been placed on the lone American's head. While all this was happening, the CIA, aka America's spy agency, decided it was time to test out Murmur, a secret, never-before-used tool developed by Lockheed Martin's Skunk Works division. The way this thing works is through something called long-range quantum magnetometry. Basically, it's an ultra-sensitive magnetic field detector that works by harnessing particle interactions in the quantum realm. More specifically, Murmur uses, quote, sensors built around microscopic defects in synthetic diamonds. And that has apparently made it possible to detect these signals at dramatically greater distances. Also worth noting here, the data collected by this device is fed into AI software to basically filter out the electromagnetic noise and locate the target. The source described it like this, quote, "It's like hearing a voice in a stadium, except the stadium is 1,000 square miles of desert. In the right conditions, if your heart is beating, we will find you." Now, the source highlighted how this field situation was, quote, an ideal first operational use, aka the best possible test run for the device. That's mostly because of the mostly vacant terrain in that part of the world. In other words, there was little to no interference from other people's heart magnetic fields. And they also coupled the device with a heat sensor to find the guy. The person added that, quote, "The capability is not omniscient. It works best in remote, low-clutter environments and requires significant processing time." All that said, and this is just food for thought here, what if this device isn't the only thing that can amplify these kinds of fields to hear and see them? What if, just like this specialized piece of equipment, what if the human body is also uniquely equipped to be able to hear or feel this specific kind of magnetic field? We've already talked in previous episodes about how the human body can tap into magnetic fields differently than any other instruments that we currently have, in particular quantum entanglement, which, by the way, is one of the quantum states that the tech behind Murmur actually uses. So why not this one? There's one really critical point here that gets looked over in science a lot. The perspective is often, well, we have no tools to measure this, so it must not exist. Well, what happens when we start becoming able to develop the tools, and suddenly we realize what mainstream science had previously written off might have more credence than we thought? So now we know something important. The heart produces a measurable electromagnetic field, and we know this better than we have ever at any other point in history. We have built machines now that are sensitive enough to detect it, from early electrical recordings to quantum-level sensors capable of picking up signals so faint that they border on invisible. And the deeper we look, the less silent the human body appears. But here's the problem. Detecting a signal is not the same thing as understanding it. Because everything we've seen so far answers one question: does the heart produce a field? Yes. But it also leaves a far more difficult question unanswered. What is that field actually doing? Is it just a byproduct of biology? A meaningless side effect of electrical activity? Or is it carrying something more? Because if patterns exist inside that signal, patterns linked to emotion, stress, or your internal state, then the heart might not just be generating energy. It might be transmitting information. What if I told you that researchers back in 2005 came up with a theory that paints the heart as a critical information generator, and that another institute says the heart's magnetic field projects far outside the body, into the space around you? Science already knows that people's hearts, brains, breathing, emotions, and even nervous systems sync up. So what if we receive more than we realize as well? And finally, one project that spanned over 2 decades proposes that mental and emotional energy can actually impact the physical world on the mass scale. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss part 2 of this episode, because if all that's true, then the question isn't just whether the heart can be measured, it's whether it can be read. And that is where things start to get a lot more complicated. But what do you think? What do you make of history's efforts to unravel the secrets of the heart through technology? How close are we to hearing the heart's electromagnetism in its truest form? Or are we already there, thanks to the CIA's top secret tech? I would love to hear your thoughts about this in the comments, and if you have an idea for something you'd like to see a future episode on, let me know. And of course, if you enjoyed this deep dive into mysteries, myths, culture, and science, please take just 1 second to like and share this video, hype it, and whatever that does. And if you want to see more, subscribe. It really, really helps get the word out there about the show. So until next time, stay curious and stay legendary. Thank you.